But I'm writing for a public that will eventually like me. It may be a long time from now, it doesn't matter. Or they may be here now, but there are very few. Doesn't matter. But I don't use any popular acceptance as a standard for what I do. I don't measure myself against acceptance or reputation. I'm not interested in having a reputation.
You think eventually the world will matter?
Pattern recognition.
Social effort.
Zeus, who says to his fellow god, Narcissus, watch yourself.
Yeah.
There are lots of things better than civilization, but if you like civilization, that's the end of it.
You think eventually the world will matter?
My approach has to be used if anybody wants to get hold of anything. It's the only possible way of coming to grips with your time.
Mm-hmm.
You will go to the telephone.
What's wrong?
Nothing really. I just feel that I need something stronger.
If you have a problem,
Describe your interests, your needs, your problems. And say, I'm working now on the history of Egyptian arithmetic. I know a bit of Sanskrit. I'm qualified in German, and I am a good mathematician. They said, it'll be right over.
Or xerography enables the reader to become publisher.
On and on about the writer, so he doesn't care for the writers.
But wait a minute, the writers find themselves to be incredibly important. They create
and he
the
says
IP.
The AI. He says they're kind of missing the point. He says you could create at any studio a profit center using the following technique: charge people $100 to come in under the guise, do you want to be in a movie? They pay $100. You scan them, 3D scan them, put them in all these movies, and say you're going to be in a bunch of movies. We'll send you an email letting you know what movies you're going to be in for the next 10 movies.
And free tickets.
Hello, I'm Victoria Racano for TechTVNews.com. Napster negotiators are tossing a $1 billion offer on the table as the file-sharing service is waiting for further word from the courts about its future. But Napster now says it wants to settle its copyright disputes.
Don't forget to breathe, man, believe.
Have mixed opinions about the offer.
Once again, digging out the 8 facts, and he said he liked their last tune before this one. It's a Renegade Hardware tune, mate, but like hard leaders, sorry. Get it right, man, get it right.
The idea that Sporeshot has that is essentially a Victorian version of OnlyFans.
You'd have to do that.
And popcorn.
Once he said that you would, for example, Adam Kerr, you'd give him $100 for this service.
For the privilege. For
the privilege of being in these movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd get an email telling you when you were going to be in it. People would line up by the thousands. So you could set up a shop in Hollywood and just say, be in a movie and bring your $100 and here.
That 3 references that have the suffix GER while talking about Gertrude Stein.
She's doing that tomato can trick of just repeating the same word until you suddenly realize it is not as semantic.
As e-commerce thrives, traditional retail has been forced to evolve. In 2017, amid slowing sales, QVC and the Home Shopping Network merged in a $2.1 billion deal. When the pandemic grounded shoppers in 2020, viewership for the shopping networks went back up 10%. But their biggest growth, 100% year over year, happened on their social platforms. It's no surprise the model has moved online, where other platforms are giving it a go too.
Live shopping has been sort of the holy grail for social media platforms for a couple of years. You know, Instagram.
But an acoustic, linguistic entity.
We go.
All right.
He's actually going to present this to a studio.
I think that's a dynamite idea. But this, of course, is not the problem at all. This has nothing to do with the core issue. And I have a couple of clips from around the globe, and I'm very, I can listen to Fran Drescher talk all day long.
I have one Fran Drescher.
I love Fran Drescher. It's market forces. We need less actors and less writers. I'm sorry.
That's why I think the idea of charging people to be an actor.
It's a great idea. Charge them to be a writer, too. Now, let's listen to BBC. We get some Fran.
And this is an important aspect of all electric circuitry. The audience is increasingly involved in the process. With the public, the audience is...
And they at once Xerox, with the help of computers from the libraries of the world, all the latest material just for you personally.
Seinfeld Vision!
Deal or no deal?
I'll take that deal!
Does Jerry Seinfeld know you're doing this?
Not as something to be put out on the bookshelf.
Change is that every time a new medium is formed, the old one not only becomes content, it becomes an art form. Film is now a respected art form. It used to be just junk. Very shortly, up until TV, the movie was just trash. But it became an art form with TV. And TV will become an art form with satellite broadcasting. But not only will TV become an art form, the planet is going to become an art form, because as we put a new environment around man's natural habitat, the planet, inevitably the new environment processes the old one, the natural habitat, into an art form. We're going to give the planet the old Williamsburg treatment.
On different populations, the effect of radio was different in Europe from its effect in North America. But one basic fact about TV that concerns us all is the fact that the viewer is the screen, and the image goes inside him. TV reverses perspective, as in Oriental painting, where the viewer is often the vanishing point. TV makes the viewer the vanishing point for the charge of the light brigade, as Joyce called it. The TV viewer is on the receiving end of the charge of the light brigade. He goes inside him, and the TV generation of youngsters is a very different generation from the movie generations before. The TV generation is deep, meditative, skeptical, inward, and grim. The safety car is just one little manifestation of the TV outlook or inlook. The movie you see is a form of motor car, because it's like a camera that takes you outside yourself on wheels and moves you through a changing environment. TV doesn't do that. A TV does not extend you like a motor car in a movie form. It goes inside you. It makes you very critical and thoughtful. TV is, in a certain sense, orientalizing the whole of North America. What it is doing to Europe, I don't know. Neither do they. They don't know because they never thought about it. But TV is orientalizing us to a certain degree and driving us inward, in depth, into all sorts of strange new dimensions, while we look at the old old movies of the earlier decades as content. What you see on TV is the old movie, while the TV form does its work on you, unhindered, unhampered. T.S. Eliot once said about poetry, the function of meaning in poetry is like the juicy piece of meat carried by the house burglar to distract the house dog, while the poem can do its work, unhampered. The effect of the medium is quite different from the content. But the content is all you see. What is really happening to you, you don't see until much later.
So I hope you will enjoy this session and have a lovely time.
it's obsolete. And it's only when a thing has become obsolete that everybody is sufficiently familiar with it to make it work. Our motor cars are obsolete long ago, but that means that they are really going concerns. There is more writing today than there was.
Writing did not merely record language, it was a totally new medium of expression and communication which the spoken word came in turn to imitate. It was the basic metaphor with which the cycle of civilization began.
July 17th, 1978, TL 4011B, Topics and Communication.
John, we are interfacing, making discoveries, talking about problems for which we are only beginning to see the solutions ourselves. We don't know the answers, we just know that we can find answers if we keep working at it.
Yeah. How did we ever get...
There are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns. The ones we don't know, we don't know.
It's so dumb as to tell people or work on the whole idea that you have to go to the unknown through the known. It's the only way never to get to the unknown.
To Winnipeg. Professor Marshall McLuhan from the University of Toronto.
When he was actually 4.
Whence did the wondrous mystic art arise of painting speech and speaking to the eyes, that we by tracing magic lines are taught how to embody and to color thought?
Well, you know, it's the same thing in any place.
It seems to me that the milieu, in looking back over your work, interior, which is
this whole insight into the fact that this was a hidden environment, this habit of thought.
Writing did not merely record language, it was a totally new medium of expression and communication which the spoken word came in turn to imitate.
I remember we went into that subject.
I made most of my discoveries while talking, not while writing.
Well, for example, when I look at...
Okay, I'll read. The content approach to media and to the testing of media efficacy in teaching and in public relations and in politics is, I'm reasonably satisfied, derivative from the habit of literacy itself. We would not talk about the content of a tune or a melody, but as soon as a man learned how to encode the audible invisible terms, writing, he easily began to make divisions between form and content, and between thought and feeling, individual and state, and so on. Insofar as these separations correspond to real modes of being, we should try to retain them. Insofar as they are fictions and illusions fostered by the subliminal action of media, they need to be considered and criticized with a view to their permanent value. Perhaps we shall learn to cherish some of the fruits of literacy. Perhaps we shall learn to cherish some of the fruits of literacy as we might precious artifacts of vanished societies. Whether it be possible to retain the fruits of literacy without the soil and tree of literacy would appear to be the test we are undergoing in the Western world. Certainly we shall learn many new aspects of literacy as we study its impact on the ancient cultures of India and China, for literacy in the West did not slice into ancient civilizations, but struck into tribal societies which wilted under its impact. This raises a major issue. When does a mechanical code of transmission of information itself become a language?
There is more writing today than there was before Gutenberg, more handwriting.
I'm sitting with Norm Macdonald, and now not all your material comes from the news. Is that right? You know,
no, some of my material comes. My strongest material comes from real life.
Real life?
Like, for instance, today I was driving in a car.
Obsolescence does not mean the conclusion, but rather the beginning of a process, as far as everyday life is concerned. This is not ordinarily understood. Most people think obsolescence means the end. It means the beginning. People always live in obsolescent attitudes and obsolescent frames of mind and obsolescent technology.
Okay, in the first edition, Understanding Media.
In this regard, again, just to get a glimpse of PR futures, if you ask yourself, what is the future of advertising? Well, look at the present. And you'll see that the advertising world has steadily taken over the providing of satisfactions. The product no longer is the main source of satisfactions. The advertisement has become increasingly the source of satisfactions, consumer satisfactions. The future of advertising is to replace the product.
To say, as we do when we're subjected to advertising.
You have to stop trying to connect anything with anything anymore.
For example, you can get, well, again, we might disagree on open close, you see, because I call the ear closed and the eye open, but some people turn it around the other way. Get, well, again, doesn't matter. As long as they're both there, that's what matters.
Yeah. What do you call the ear closed and the...
Because it's total. It's like a tribal society is closed.
Because in Einstein's world, everything happens at once.
Cooksucker. And the whole group froze.
Yeah, it's beginning to cook now.
Oh, they're trying to spot processes. Pattern recognition is new because when things move at very high speeds, then everybody can begin to understand for the first time in the world what gives. Familiarity breeds consensus. It teaches you how to see and feel and know yourself. The ultimate form of propaganda is the mother tongue.
There are no connections, but there are interfaces and resonances and constant music.
Getting your attention.
If you pick up a newspaper, you are the content, because it only means what it means to you.
The future of PR, you could easily translate it, is to replace something that we now consider rather important. Business. I'm not saying that that is the future of PR. I'm simply saying that you can spot these trends if you look for them. But if management took over from ownership, PR may take over from business. Well, at least one specific result of the electronic age is to supplant tailor-made, custom-built satisfactions, or rather to put custom-made, tailor-made satisfactions in place of mass-produced ones. The old packaged goods, mass-produced, uniform, repeatable, are obviously disappearing under electronic impulse. You'll get a very good image of this in Xerox and its effect on the book.
The book created the private individual, corporate individual. The private individual is disappearing very rapidly on TV. The bugging process, the Watergate thing, is merely one small indication of how the private world is disappearing. Got fouled up over policies.
And
He was a professor, a very learned man.
this has become the new human occupation in the electronic age. Espionage is now the total human activity, whether you call it... This is called public relations, and it's called...
to attendance. In fact, for anybody to even expect to be private in our kind of world is crazy, because the credit agencies have to know all about you. If you're going to keep your business world going, you have to give up your privacy. Our entire post. For many moons, all centuries, that the only way to learn is to go from what you already know to something you don't. In Plato's terms, led him to suppose that really all we could ever know was something we had once known in another existence, a déjà vu. Activities, our entire audience studies, everything is against privacy. On the other hand, with Xerox, you have the complete flip of Gutenberg. With Xerox, you have the complete flip of Gutenberg. With Xerox, everybody becomes publisher, not reader, but publisher. Anybody can publish anything. You can publish a letter or a poem or anything, or the Pentagon Papers. Any office boy can publish the Pentagon Papers, because it's the office boys who do the Xeroxing, and all the office boys have access to top secret documents. So Xerox, the electric thing, is a complete revolution, and it's away from the eye. It's all back to the ear again. It's all acoustic. With Xerox, you have the complete flip of Gutenberg. With Xerox, everybody becomes publisher, not reader, but publisher.
Is primarily for the fact that a $50 billion film can be reproduced at the cost of, let's see, 10 or 15 cents.
Anybody can publish anything. You can publish a letter or a poem or anything, or the Pentagon Papers. Any office boy can publish the Pentagon Papers.
Xerox.
Pentagon Papers, because it's the office boys who do the Xeroxing, and all the office boys have.
Chris Pitzer bought a rank Xerox with a drawing by Liberatory in it, a Catalan edition, which he kind of stole right out from under me, Chris, so I still have that on your record. But an interesting retailer, and still kind of active in some ways, and at some point had a store in Manhattan. Right, so kind of cool to see this stuff. But then you see Well News Service, Wholesale Distributor, you start to see these other distributors popping up.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Like, it would be Chuck Rosansky who really pushed against the Phil Suling monopoly and created a situation where it was possible to...
Well, you mentioned Bud Plant, too, and I think at this point, Bud Plant is doing a lot of wholesale for the West Coast.
Totally.
Access to top secret documents. So Xerox, the electric thing, is with Xerox, you have the complete flip of Gutenberg. It's a complete revolution, and it's away from the eye. It's all back to the ear again. It's all acoustic.
Are actually built using external systems. So they all need market prices.
As you can tell from my mellifluous accent, I am a New Yorker born and raised. As a kid back in Flushing, Queens, I always dreamt of becoming a professional actor, but I never imagined that show business, which was so romanticized in the old movies of the 30s and 40s, would in 2023 become a soulless business of greed and disrespect.
Wow, known for rock.
Well, this kind of ear-eye-ear split, which runs right through the wake, is also the east-west split, isn't it? Between, and Joyce is loaded with their references to that, isn't he?
Yeah, well,
he sort of traces it through this progression from the tribal through the east to the west, and there you remain.
The
Remember,
west,
immediately after the
west shall
fall,
shake the east awake,
while yet you have the night for morn.
Suggesting that as Western hardware, old technology, hits the east, it wakes the east out of its tribal dream.
A place for everything, and everything in its place. That's the rule for Chip, Alice, Timmy, Danny, and Charlie Dowdy. That's the rule for their mother, too, and a mighty useful one it is.
A place for everything. That sure helps around my kitchen. Everything in its place. That's easy. With my Frigidaire cold pantry.
So true, Mrs. Doughty.
Live streamers in China, known as key opinion leaders.
It wakes the east out of its tribal dream.
Right.
But in the meantime, our new electric technology is orientalizing us, turning us inward.
Sure.
And
it's also working equally on the old tribal world, just sending them more tribal. Remember, he has this global village concept nailed down several times with phrases like the herb it orbs, heading towards away from the centralized concept
the
of the
obvious
city
of
and
that,
into
it plays
the
works
software.
Just, you could say the orb it herbs just as well, couldn't you?
Yeah. Urban and orbital. Another one, orrible.
Well, there's another great pair that runs all the way through the wake. That's Shem and Sean.
Ah, yeah.
Tell me tale of stem and stone, tales of Shem and Sean. Do these relate to the same themes of stem and stone?
Oh, certainly.
Rock bottom prices. Live streamers in China, known as key opinion leaders or KOLs, have made massive fortunes. There's entire boot camps devoted to the career craze of becoming a live stream shopping host.
For the performing artist, the AMPTP has so radically changed the business model that a new structure of the contract is demanded. We cannot allow big business greed to take away our careers, to take away our livelihoods. The buck stops here. We are at a very serious crossroads. This is a righteous fight, and they are on the wrong side of history. The AMPTP's maniacal corporate culture for greed must stop. Industry profit and doing the right thing on behalf of workers does not have to be mutually exclusive, but go hand in hand as we define the new meaning for success.
They all need some kind of data to prove that the contract should go to the next.
A dark cloud hanging over Hollywood as writers and actors are simultaneously on strike for the first time since 1960.
I mean, I think I'm very excited by these new oracles, the fact that we are now starting to capture a lot more information with regards to the precise timing as information is aggregated. It just had market depths for information. In time, I know this will extend to things like, volatility measures and other parameters, all of which will be available for DeFi protocols to be able to ingest and allow their.
This will allow developers to use Ethereum's programming language Solidity and bring it to XRP.
Made you.
You made me.
Nobody knew you.
You made me.
I took a poor little kid from Lowerville
and made me.
Let's put it on the
about anybody who didn't watch football didn't know you. Come on, it gets back with the interview now.
Number 2. The body is now aging.
You ready?
A shell of what it used to be.
What am I going to do?
The man's beset by fear. What are you going to do to George for me?
He just said the man's body is not what it used to be. The man is beset by fear. Talking about me. You crazy. If I had a lower IQ, I could enjoy your interview.
Be stealing bikes in Louisville if it's
And even though we see the movie with the SEC and Ripple,
there isn't a soul within the hearing of my voice that doesn't know what's going on in the world today. Because that's true. Can't you just imagine these two adorable little women in their 80s discussing world affairs and world politics in their 80s, mind you? And one little 80-year-old says to her girlfriend who is 84, What do you think about that, China?
On your insight into China's actions in this space would be helpful.
You know, I would just say we have to assume that what would that mean? We have to ask the question, what would it mean if China had a digital currency that had fairly wide adoption, including 2 other countries? We've got to ask that. I think we've also got to ask, what if a private sector entity, you know, a large company with a large network of users has a digital currency? So we're looking.
That's already popped out, and I think we had pretty bipartisan concerns on that one.
So that's why we're doing all this work. We understand it. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for, you know, a couple decades, but it's really lit up.
This
is something we've been focused on digital currencies. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies. This is something we've been focused on digital currencies for, you know, a couple decades. Couple decades fire around the world right now. So we are doing a great deal of work.
My time's up. I just want to say I would urge.
What do you think about that, China?
Having seen China's.
The other one says, I'll tell you the truth, on a yellow tablecloth it would look beautiful.
We see the movie with the SEC and Ripple, and then plus adding in Ethereum. Guys, we know how important the smart contracts are going.
You will be 2000. When were you born?
We didn't have formal years and names and writing. We didn't know.
Going to be. It's going to change everything that we do. Basically a virtual world. But also what's going to be on blockchain is Hollywood. And we can clearly see Hollywood moving into the virtual world. And because the sheep are going to become an avatar, everyone can be a star. And then plus adding in Ethereum, guys, we know how important the smart contracts are going to be.
Smart contracts and their systems to be able to gain the insight of that information. And the reason that information is valuable is it allows you to price products more efficiently.
You guys, we came up with this house and you guys just paint the rooms. You didn't have anything. It's like, no, you only have a business because we built the house. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, you didn't come up with the house.
They used a literate audience of slaves, but they themselves, as aristocrats, would not read or write. Oh, heavens no.
Show.
This again is not ordinarily known to classicists. But who wrote Plato? It wasn't written by Plato. It was recorded by his amanuenses, his slaves, the way you're recording me on this thing. But that's a figure, but it had another ground. To read means to guess. Look it up in the big dictionary. The word redan means to guess, and reading is actually an activity of rapid guessing. Because any word has so many meanings, including the word reading, many, many meanings, that to select one in a context of other words requires very rapid guessing. That's why a good reader tends to be a very quick decision maker.
So Xerox, the electric thing, is a complete revolution.
And that's precisely why.
And it's away from the eye.
I do not wish.
It's all back to the ear again.
To move into it.
It's all acoustic.
Because I understand it, I much prefer the old mildewed world of the 18th century book.
Yes, sir, I'll do that. Burton Supply Company. Well, Mr. Luft is out of town today. Mr. Whiteside will handle that matter for you. Yes, sir, I'll connect you. You're welcome. Yes, Mr. Patterson? Oh, you'll be in the stock room? Surely, I'll transfer your calls to the stock room all day. Burton Supply Company. Mr. Wilson? Thank you.
Mr. Burton's finished, Mr. Hopper. Go right in.
How's that?
You may go in now.
Oh, thank you. Henry! Hello.
Well, if it isn't Ted Hopper. How are things out on the coast?
Great, great. Are you ready for lunch?
Sure, Ted. As soon as I take care of one more telephone call. Should be in any time now. Here, sit down. Make yourself comfortable.
Ah, thanks.
Cigarette?
Sure.
Well, Ted, it's good to see you again.
Say, what sort of magic do you work around here?
Same old Ted, always talking in riddles. What do you mean magic? I'm no Houdini.
You must have something to lure that gal here. The one who runs your switchboard out there.
Oh, you mean Miss Tanner? I don't know what her name is, but that girl sure knows how to handle a switchboard. Yep, she's good all right. Still the master of understatement, aren't you, Henry? Yeah, she's good all right. Where did you get her?
She's the same operator we've had all along.
Yeah?
Sounds like you've been impressed.
You know what? I think I'll kidnap her.
What for?
What for? 'Cause telephone habits in my office could stand a shot in the arm, that's what for.
You didn't come up with the house. You didn't come up with the arrangement of rooms or anything. We came up with that. Right. You spent the money and you're going to sell it. Fantastic. To recognize that kind of partnership, I mean, that word is thrown around a lot in the business. But I think it's that. I think it's this mentality by these, and I think maybe tech brought it in, that expanded it. And again, I love tech. I have a computer science degree, but yes, this thinking like, well, we came up with this thing, and you guys are just like the programming monkeys that just make it happen. Right. It's like, really? And you're all interchangeable. And they brought that kind of mentality. Into our business, right? Which is, it's mind-boggling.
To price products more efficiently, you can price a swap more efficiently. If you understand the volatility of an asset, you can potentially again change how you are dealing with those market conditions.
There are no connections, but there are interfaces and resonances and constant music.
Getting your attention.
If you pick up a newspaper, you are the content. Because it only means what it means to you.
If you understand the volatility of an asset, you can potentially again change how you are dealing with those market conditions.
History. And we made the hard decision that we tell you as we stand before you today. This is major. It's really serious, and it's going to impact every single person that is in labor. We are fortunate enough to be in a country right now that happens to be labor friendly. And yet, we were facing opposition that was so labor unfriendly, so tone deaf to what we are saying. You cannot change the business model as much as it has changed and not expect the contract to change too.
So why is it important that we want upgradable smart contracts? Well, while the immutability property of smart contract logic has a ton of
isolated thoughts and actions.
But actually what's really going on.
Isolated thoughts and actions.
But actually what's really going on is there is an integrity issue.
A value in why is it important that we want upgradable smart contracts? Very rarely are things designed and implemented perfectly the first time. Traditional software is updated for a variety of reasons, including bug fixes, adding new features, and performance improvements. If you've ever owned any computer ever, you know what I'm talking about. And just like a proxy server sits in between a user and the server they want to communicate with, a proxy contract sits in between a user and the smart contract. Why is it important that we want upgradable smart contract they want to talk to? It can forward transactions to another smart contract. So in this diagram we have
Andrew Schultz, HTZI and Andrew Schultz thoughts on the Hollywood strike. 1. The real issue is that actors and writers want fair residual payments from the streamers. In order to define what is fair, the streamers will need to share how many people are actually watching their shows, and here lies the problem.
It's also part of our cost containment initiative. Spending less on what we make and making less.
Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
And making less.
Now, of course, it used to be that some of that stuff would then go to Netflix and you'd make a lot of money from selling it in different distribution channels. Now it all just goes to Disney Plus. Do you ever think about how much money?
We shouldn't have done that?
No.
We shouldn't have done that?
No.
To understand the volatility of an asset, you can.
But then something happens.
To understand the volatility of an asset, you can.
But then something happens.
Begins to study the way it works. And he sees that some things go down.
And, casting his perils before swings.
One possibility is that we do some licensing. I'm not going to rule that out.
You won't?
No.
Because it doesn't feel as though that's the strategy any longer.
I kind of like that name. It's identifiable. I kind of like that name. It's identifiable.
One possibility. One possibility.
And now, Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy.
One possibility.
Up, everybody. It's over. The
right
internet was fun while it lasted, but AI-generated models are now taking over. Not only are they getting a ton of followers, they're taking the brand deals and the sponsorships with them. And these captions are as cringe as possible, and men are lining up to give them money. And I can't tell whether they don't know they're not real, or if they just don't care. Like I always say, this is the worst AI will ever be. We're going to soon get to the point where we can't really tell the difference. So prepare for an era where some awkward introvert in his basement creates...
Whole saying in the business world, if it works, it's obsolete. And it's only when a thing has become...
Just people who normally wouldn't make movies are going to be making them, and, suddenly... One day, some little fat girl in Ohio is going to be the new Mozart, and make a beautiful film with her little father's camera recorder. And for once, the so-called professionalism about movies will be destroyed forever, and it'll really become an art form. That's my opinion.
...become obsolete that everybody is sufficiently familiar with it to make it work. Our motor cars are obsolete long ago, but that means that they are really going concerns. There is more writing today than there was before Gutenberg, more handwriting. Obsolescence does not mean the conclusion, but rather the beginning of a process, as far as everyday life is concerned. This is not ordinarily understood. Most people think obsolescence means the end. It means the beginning. People always live in obsolescent attitudes and obsolescent things of mind and obsolescent technology.
An empire of extroverted super influencers. Oh, how the churns have tabled. And I guess it is true. Nerds always win. Now, we've had CGI influencers before, right? This is Lil Miquela. She makes millions a year as an influencer. Here's her showing for WorldCoin, the orb that scans your retina and exchanges for crypto. But creating Miquela at least took some real effort. Now with AI, anybody can create Miquela in just a few minutes. So the dead internet theory may have finally arrived. And if you've never heard that, follow for that video. Things are getting really wild.
What do you mean? I'm gonna shout to the 8th grade.
I'm Meredith Scarecrow.
There's a rapidly growing ecosystem of new live streaming apps in China too, like TikTok's sister app Douyin and Pinduoduo, known for rock-bottom prices. Live streamers in China, known as key opinion leaders or KOLs, have made massive fortunes. There's entire boot camps devoted to the career craze of becoming a live stream shopping host.
By saying a thing like that, I've been all over town trying to find that kind of
of a fire.
At the Acme Toy Company on West 46th Street.
Top creators build viewer trust through honest reviews.
$4.50. Wonderful bargain.
Honest reviews.
The length on them is not super long. I feel like it's important to just...
Macy's sending other people to other stores?
The important thing is to keep the children happy, whether Macy's or somebody else.
Most important trait, in my opinion, particularly in the context of financial services, and where we've seen trust break down, is the trait of integrity. Now, integrity really comes down to your intentions and motives. And integrity is being really honest about whether your intentions...
But I can only suggest that confusion of an extreme kind is the normal human condition in all sensory and perceptual matters. If anybody has the idea...
And integrity is being really honest about whether your intentions...
Please let me read.
With you on facts.
Well, I can't think of any at the moment, but
Well, I can think. I mean, this whole book is facts and facts and facts.
Which book is that now?
George lent it to me. The Finkelstein.
Oh yeah. Well,
It's all facts. It's a list of facts.
Give me one.
Wrong.
Give me one.
Oh, I can't. I mean, I can't.
Just find one.
Can't even be bothered. Well, he points out that Euclid lived a long time after.
After printing. After writing.
Before the alphabet.
That's not true. I happen to know.
Hold on.
5th century.
I'll give you the quotes.
No, that sort of fact I can defend anytime.
And he also...
This is exactly bunkum.
The Greeks...
Incidentally, I am using the great David Derringer for my thoughts on the alphabet. Derringer is the great world authority on alphabets. He has hundreds of them in his book. It's called The Alphabet.
Right.
So I'm not stating my opinions on the alphabet. I'm giving you the David Derringer opinions.
Hold on. McLuhan writes, the invention... I want to see... The invention of a Euclidean space is itself a direct result of the action of the phonetic alphabet on the human senses.
Yes.
Unquote. However, the Phoenicians developed the phonetic alphabet about 1000 BC, and Euclid lived about 300 BC.
Okay.
It appears then that McLuhan either doesn't know Euclid lived about 7 centuries after the alphabet began, or has an odd idea of meaning of the word direct.
Now, just a moment. Euclid was a Greek. The Phoenician alphabet had not come to Greece until the 5th century.
Yeah, but then he
so
says... Well,
Euclid came at the same time as the alphabet to Greece. Now, the Phoenicians were not in Greece. They were all around in the Mediterranean world, but they weren't in Greece. They came late to Greece. The alphabet came late to Greece. But remember, he's making no distinction between the Phoenician alphabet and the phonetic alphabet. There is a big gap. The Greeks perfected the Phoenician alphabet. I throw the book in the corner. If the guy is not being a structuralist, forget him. But I can only suggest that confusion of an extreme kind is...
and motives align with another person's. And where we see institutions get into trouble again and again is when they have an integrity problem and they point to a capability issue. So they say, actually, the reason why this happened was because there was a flaw in the system. Or the reason why this happened was some bug that we didn't catch. But actually, what's really going on is there is an integrity issue.
Tell the truth about what it is, because if it's short on me and a tall woman buys it, then they're going to realize it when they get it anyway, and they're just going to return it.
So Google partnered with Nielsen to learn more about viewers who watch less than 2 hours of TV a day.
Can they be tracked and aggregated? Now, this is really complicated, right? But if we can do it, it's going to be amazing. It'll be like the ancient powers of word of mouth meets the modern network world.
I really want it to be, in my opinion, I want it to be purchased from me. Like, I spent my own money on this product, so I can tell you it is worth spending your money on this product.
Celebrities like Kourtney Kardashian Barker.
Whatever. Defense rests. Everybody can fuck off. Except you. I didn't mean you, but those
Thank you,
two guys.
Richard.
Him.
You may be seated.
You guys get the fuck out of the way, please.
The possibilities that we do some licensing.
And he sees that some things go down, disappear, and some things pop up.
This is a phrase out of Finnegan, and it's typical of the technique of Finnegan. Joyce regarded the human language as the biggest storage system of human knowledge and perception anywhere. What we're doing with the computer up to now is merely giving it to the librarians and to the garden cataloguers. But the possibility of retrieval as a form of discovery is something we all know from our own memories. Memories. When we recall something, we tend to make discoveries. We certainly tend to make changes in the pattern of the thing we know. His own use of that vast store of human perception was to retrieve from it in a pattern which made
Welcome back, stupid viewers.
Service environments have taken the place of political policies.
Full and seamless integration of brands into great content. Advertising is the critical ingredient in bringing great content to consumers.
Art in The problem is this, and what we have done is this.
When your whole sensorium is in action, you don't...
But we now live electrically in a non-Euclidean world. The Euclid has been phased out because the eye has gone back into the rest of the sensorium.
The holistic and the world of Gestalt and figure ground and pattern recognition.
The artist, the enema of society. The problem is this, and what we have done is this. Time as the alphabet. To Greece. Now the Phoenicians were not in Greece. They were all around in the Mediterranean world, but they weren't in Greece. And therefore the opposite of a point of view. School.
That's essentially it.
When Cubism came in 1900.
Then something happened, which is where we see this clip of Dirty Dancing getting 90 million views, but it wasn't uploaded by us. It was uploaded by this fan.
Right.
And we said, What if we become the guys that build all the tech to help the content owners figure out whenever a fan uploads that video, rather than taking it down, let's turn this, let's pull it all into this platform.
And he sees that some things go down.
And, casting his pearls before swings.
One possibility is that we do some licensing.
Where you can make decisions whether to monetize it or take it down.
Now, of course, it used to be that some of that stuff would then go to Netflix and you'd make a lot of money.
Pull it all into this platform, Dirty Dancing getting 90 million views, but it wasn't uploaded by us.
Non-fungible video token.
Dirty Dancing getting 90 million views, but it
Non-fucking fungible video index token. NFVIT. Videosity.
can make decisions whether to monetize it or take it down.
This is Jim Rockford. At the tone, leave your name and message. I'll get back to you.
Jim, it's Norma at the market. It bounced. You want us to tear it up, send it back, or put it with the others?
Hey, Jim, this is Louie down at the fish market. You gonna pick up these halibut or what?
Hey, Rockford, very funny. I ain't laughing. You're gonna get yours.
It's Maury. Got a call from Davis at the IRS. You were right. They bounced your return. Call me.
It's Lori at the trailer park. A space opened up. Do you want me to save it, or the cop's gonna let you stay where you are?
You really want Shim 107? Come on, that nag couldn't go a mile in the back of a pickup truck.
You can make decisions whether to monetize it or take it down.
From selling it in different distribution channels, now it all just goes to Disney Plus. Do you ever think about how much
if
money
we shouldn't have done that?
And they all start monetizing it. And so the rest of what you see here is Zephyr. That's when we turned it to Zephyr, which is building everything around this tech platform.
Hi, this is Ryan Lawler. I'm here with TechCrunch TV. Today, I'm here with Zach James, who's the co-founder of Zephyr, and we're here in your Venice office. Tell us a little bit about what Zephyr is.
If you understand the volatility of an asset, you can potentially, again, change how you are dealing with those market conditions.
They stole something, and it's illegal to steal something. It's really that simple. And Bob Gale, quite literally, is a thief. No exaggeration.
What happened to Grandpa? Oh, he threw his back out again.
How's Granddad's little pumpkin?
How did you do that? How did he do that?
Oh, out on the golf course.
We had Crispin Glover in our studios not too long ago, pre-COVID. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to hear he continues to have a bone to pick with you over the use of his likeness. In part 2, he got pretty riled up, says he's been caused a lot of grief. He called you a thief. How do you react to sort of his continual frustration with that situation?
Crispin had an opportunity to participate in the sequels. We made what we thought and what his agent at the time thought was an excellent offer, and he turned it down for money.
And there's one producer in particular, Bob Gale, who's obviously unrelenting. He pretends that it isn't illegal, which amazes me. And it amazes me that people don't point him to it. You know, there's a classic thing where somebody will blame a victim when they have done something illegal. That's what Bob Gale does. That is incredibly infuriating.
I'm your density. Your destiny.
We checked with the legal department Universal if we had permission to use footage of him from the first movie in the second movie, and they said yes. And do we have permission to make another actor resemble him? Yes. And you see that all the time. I mean, Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, Richard Harris died, and the new Dumbledore has a strong resemblance to the old Dumbledore. We didn't do anything that was illegal.
Mom, I can't let him think I'm chicken.
You're right.
The acting of the person that had prosthetics of my face is not a good performance. And to have people believe that that's my performance, I would have never made the choices or done any of the things that that actor did, and then to have the people attribute that to you at an important time of your career, it's really, really not right. It's too bad, because I did enjoy playing the character. I did enjoy working with Robert Zemeckis and the cast, and it's something I should be able to just say, yeah, great. He should say he did something illegal and that he apologized. That's what he should, but he's not the kind of person that will do that.
So you don't have any regrets with how that situation was handled?
At the very beginning, Crispin asked for more money than we were willing to pay. He proceeded on the basis that we weren't going to have him in the sequels. At a certain point, Crispin's agent called us and said Crispin thinks maybe he made a mistake, and is there a possibility of him getting into the sequels? Sure, have him come in, we'll talk to him about it. We met with Zemeckis. It was at that point that we negotiated a deal for him to be in both Part 2 and Part 3, and he ended up not taking the deal. So there you go. I'm sorry that Crispin is still angry with me. He seems to take it out on me personally. I don't understand why. Everybody at the studio was involved in this decision, including director Bob Zemeckis. Crispin obviously didn't have a problem with Bob Zemeckis because he goes off and he did Beowulf with him.
I had a positive experience working with Zemeckis again. There are scars or wounds from that kind of a situation.
You know, Crispin made his choices, and there it is.
I'm afraid I'm just not very good at confrontations.
We're not going to keep doing incremental changes on a contract that no longer honors.
If we shouldn't have done that?
No. What is happening right now with this business model that was foisted upon us? What are we doing? Moving around furniture on the Titanic?
The alternative to telling a lie as bullshitting one's way through. This involves not merely producing one instance of bullshit, it involves a program of producing bullshit to whatever extent the circumstances require. This is a key, perhaps, to his preference. Telling a lie is an act with a sharp focus. It is designed to insert a particular falsehood at a specific point in a set or system of beliefs.
But it's basically business models. It wasn't the only model. The licensing model was part of a collection of models.
This is surely humbug. As Black's account suggests, the orator isn't lying. He would be lying only if it were his intention to bring about in his audience beliefs that he himself regards as false.
You know, and as it turns out, I think we made the right decision there to go into that business. It will be a growth business for us. We will turn it around. It will be a growth business for us. We will turn it around.
It's crazy. So the jig is up, AMPTP.
And revealing extremely low viewership. And revealing extremely low viewership would kill the stock price.
Managing a business to maximum results. One possibility is that we do some licensing. One possibility is that we do some licensing. One possibility is that we do some licensing. One possibility is that we do some licensing.
Did you not know anything about me?
I have seen your...
One possibility is that we do some licensing.
A quick stop at the bank. I'm in the right line because I know which cashier is the fastest. And then I'm back to my office. I simply return all my calls and then I'm through. I'm done. I can get back on the express. And I don't wait in line either, no.
That's the kind of thing that Matthew was right, yeah, compared to the other. There's a different style in the car.
However, we're back, you see, in the electric age, back to all sorts of primal and primitive ideas of human community and starting from scratch again. So you don't start where they left off anymore. You go back to square one, which is where the TV kids or the activists want to go.
Is it the first completion of the circle?
I don't know.
No, I don't wait in line this time either, no! Because I got more tokens while I was at the bank!
Yes, I know just what you want. We don't carry that brand, but I think Gimbals does. Let me see. Yes, here it is. I thought I noticed it before.
Me da mucha ternura porque tiene que haber una competencia entre las marcas.
Now we'll take some at my store.
Just a minute. I have something I'd like to give our friend here. This is just a little something to show my appreciation for all you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Macy. I didn't think you were that generous.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be enough.
That's essentially it.
I'll make up the difference. Buy it through the store and get 10% discount. I can get it for cost.
Terminé acá, pero fue por una buena causa.
King.
I wonder who else out there is mad about my blender.
Speeds of the bridgeways and railways. But you can get into a civilized society.
In other words, they get huge information satisfaction from ads, far more than they do from the product itself.
A reader, rapid guessing.
Like, yeah, this guy Rick is right.
Because of the speed of information.
Managing a business to maximum results.
He's crawling, Emma's crawling.
He's bleeding, Joey's bleeding.
I'm sorry, honey. You've got to come see this.
One possibility is that we do some licensing. One possibility is that we do some licensing.
And capitalism, as Marx understood it, disappeared.
If anybody has the
in terms of auditory magic, is them heroes was merely The post-literate book exists in another ground. With the mechanization of the scribe's work, the post-literate book came a uniform product. Until this century.
Yeah, but then
Euclid came at the same time as the alphabet to Greece. Now the Phoenicians were not in Greece. They were all around in the Mediterranean world, but they weren't in Greece. They came late to Greece. The alphabet came late to Greece. But remember, he's making no distinction between the Phoenician alphabet and the phonetic alphabet. There is a big gap. The Greeks perfected the Phoenician alphabet. I throw the book in the corner. If the guy is not being a structuralist, forget him.
But I can only suggest that confusion of an extreme kind is
exists in another ground. The printed book, of which you could have as many copies as you like, all the same. Exists in another ground. With the coming of uniform products, you have, for the first time in human history, uniform prices.
It appears then that McLuhan either doesn't know Euclid lived about 7 centuries after the alphabet began.
The post-literate book exists in another ground. There never had been any uniform prices for anything prior to printing.
Or has an odd idea of meaning of the word direct.
Just a moment. Every egg was slightly different. Like every grapefruit, slightly different. And so they haggled and they bargained, but there were no uniform prices. It's as somebody once said, that the book, the handwritten book, was a second-hand market. Come to Greece. The post-literate book exists in another ground.
Surely reading is half of it is thinking as well as
guessing. And for example, when I look up the word read and find that it means to guess, every book was different, and you settled the price by second-hand haggling.
Surely is
overnight they moved into a new economics.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating. Guessing, and it is judgment, it is decision-making, but it does require a very high degree of rapid.
And that is not a one-man job. It takes a lot of dialogue and a lot of observation.
But based on books. Then they tried to extend that principle to other commodities as much as possible.
Half of it is thinking.
So that mass production was really came out of the paradigm or the matrix of the printing press. For example, when I look up the word read and find that it means to guess, quantities of information to cope with that the older methods of classified filing of classified information in our memories and so on will not serve. Yeah, well, that's fascinating. Guessing and to this day, at the present time, that whole mass production system is in the melting pot again with the computer. It is judgment, it is decision making, but it does require a very high degree of rapid. And capitalism, as Marx understood it, disappeared quite a long time ago because of the completely different nature of money. Money is now information. It's not hardware anymore.
He calls it, the mechanical bride, so that something which is should be natural.
So you can now get a credit card which will allow you to use money.
Is no longer natural. It's being created by.
But a lot of places will not accept credit cards because of bookkeeping problems, all sorts of problems.
The new language of industry.
Now the credit card is a flip over to this acoustic world.
The new language of industry.
Credit is very mysterious stuff. It's made of information only. It's not made of metals and the bankers don't understand it anymore. No, I assure you, they're as confused about these matters as anybody could be. Early gold had a ground. Video.
One possibility is that we do some licensing.
Raised in Vietnam, and they came here the day the war ended. So my aunt, she was young, and she has an interesting Chinese, Vietnamese.
Well, as somebody once said, children now become gray at 3. They have acquired so much information about the world by the age of 3 that they're in a sense senile. And this vast amount of data that
Oklahoma accent, so she talk like this, We love her.
They're making be among the things we're looking at, just in terms of improving the bottom line of the company and basically managing a business to maximum results. One possibility is that we do some licensing. There may be among the things we're looking at, just in terms of improving the bottom line of the company and basically managing a business to maximum results. One possibility is that we do some licensing.
Let's talk about corporate influence in the media. And before I do, I am very aware that we're extremely lucky here on HBO. We don't have advertisers. So if I want to say that, for instance,
we stand tall. You have to wake up and smell the coffee.
Systems and basically create more robust systems.
Send you the package as a direct personal service. This is where we're heading under electronic information conditions. Products increasingly are becoming services.
What kind of a world would you rather live in? Is there a period in the past or a possible period in the future you'd rather be in?
I'd rather be in any period at all, as long as people are going to leave it alone for a while. Just let go, just leave it now.
But they're not going to, are they?
No. So the only alternative is to understand everything that's going on and then neutralize it as much as possible, turn off as many buttons as you can, and frustrate them as much as you can. I am resolutely opposed to all innovation, all change, but I am determined to understand what's happening, because I don't choose just to sit and let the juggernaut roll over me.
And all of these contracts I just showed you are
all change, but I am determined to understand what's happening, because I don't choose just to sit and let the juggernaut roll over me.
So you think eventually?
Oh, sure. It's very it's quite. Again, it doesn't matter. But what prompts me in my activities is the feeling that I am increasingly adequate to the problems of the time. Now, I'm not interested in being a man of letters. I'm not interested in having any reputation as a writer. But as an observer and as a commentator, an analyst, yes, I do insist on being felt. And by the way, you can tell when you're being felt by the sort of people who get angry at you.
Yeah? What do you make of your own critic?
I managed to get almost everybody mad at me and they're the ones who are stupid. The stupid people will always get angry at you.
And you think the more the better?
The more the better. That is, you let them come out in the open.
But you think really there's that many dumb people?
Total bullshit with a real stink of loophole-iness, in my opinion. And these projects will be shot and edited and in the can and ready to go with a bow on it for when the strike is over. They'll be ready to sell to streamers, albeit at our new deal rates. And I think that feels shitty to some people because...
I think there are very, very, very few intelligent people. I mean very few, maybe a couple of dozen. If that. That's an awful lot of people.
What, in the world?
In the world, yes. That's an awful lot of people. Now,
there's more than that.
Most people are just little consumers. They're going along for the ride. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to do any perceiving. How many people are going to actually do perceiving? Some of my best students are rivals of mine. People like Hugh Kenner and Walter Hahn. They not only steal everything I have, but they try to make their own personal reputations by using my approaches too. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, a good sign.
It's okay, isn't it?
It's a good sign.
At least they're intelligent.
They are smart enough to use my stuff, yeah. But they become rivals. They don't become disciples. They become rivals.
And do you want disciples?
I don't know.
That's fine.
I'd rather have rivals. I think.
It'd be better to have co-worker.
Yeah, that's very desirable. I've always been very fortunate in having at least a couple of people at any one time who are able to discuss problems at a pretty good level. You have to have that.
Yeah, because
you have to have some dialogue.
Unless you're just staying put.
Oh well, after all, remember now, my method does not permit you to stay put. The thing is changing. The ground is changing all the time, and you have to move with it quickly.
Yeah, but you can still lose grip with reality.
Oh yeah, except that if you are in motion, you can keep in touch. You certainly can't keep in touch by staying put, that's sure.
Yeah, that's true, but
okay. Well, anyway, I don't stay put. And I don't count out any problem from any one approach. I use many approaches.
What's your reaction when people quibble with you on facts?
I can't think of any at the moment, but...
well, I can think, this whole book is facts and facts and facts.
Which book is that?
George lent it to me, the Ginkgo style.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's all facts. It's a list of facts.
Give me one. Wrong. Give me one.
But they're not models, you know, they're not like beauty queens or whatever. They're not in a beauty contest.
Well, because I think that confidence and fame in and of themselves provide a halo effect where the expectation is that you're more beautiful than you are.
Right.
And I mean, everybody knows, not everybody, clearly men on Twitter do not realize this for the most part, nor do the women. Everybody knows that like beauty can only be truly appraised like in person. You have to really see somebody in motion. You have to hear how they speak.
Yes.
You have to see how they carry themselves.
Unless
what they smell like.
Right. Unless they're an anime girl.
Right.
In which case you can experience their sheer powerful Apollonian beauty through the computer screen.
By the way, on page 19, it's not the same.
No,
it's the medium is the message chapter.
Yeah.
And it is about how many pages? It's
quite a few.
4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about 12, 15 pages in.
Yeah.
Arnold Toynbee is at the top of my paragraph. Arnold Toynbee made one approach to the transforming power of media.
Yeah.
Got that?
Mm-hmm.
In his concept of etherealization, now, this is the concept that we live in a time when you do more with less.
Because what's happening to us...
Electronic equipment which is translating us into software.
Trait, in my opinion, particularly in the context of financial services, and where we've seen trust break down, is the trait of integrity. Now, integrity really comes down to your intentions and motives. And integrity is being really honest about whether your intentions and motives align with another person's. And where we see institutions get into trouble again and again is when they have an integrity problem and they point to a capability issue. So they say, actually, the reason why this happened was because there was a flaw in the system. Or the reason why this happened was some bug that we didn't catch. But actually, because what's happening to us really going on is there is an integrity issue.
The satellite worlds put around the globe puts a proscenium arch. The whole of the planet becomes a stage. Stage. All the world's a stage now, literally. Shakespeare at the globe said all the world's a stage. We on the globe now see.
Scripting point of view.
All the world's a stage. Way at the back.
Because what's happening to us...
Electronic equipment.
It's an eye-safe medical-grade laser. The optics, the cameras actually pick that up, and the undulations of that line create a digital model.
You name it. The line as a means of organizing human energy is disappearing. I don't say this is a good or bad thing. I don't even pretend to know. But it disappears under the impact of an all-at-once technology. The line...
And the undulations of that line create a digital model.
This is what I hate. Third act problems. Roll. Stop. Freeze in digital memory.
The line as a means of organizing human energy is disappearing.
This better work, pal, or you'll be a digital memory.
Take it easy, Damon. We're loading Richard's image onto the database, and when he's mapped onto the stunt double, you'll never know the difference.
Greetings. I am Salvador Felipe Jacinto.
Art is anything you can get away with.
Dali y Dominic.
Look at cover of June 8 TV Guide. Dali picture of what TV really is. 2 thumbnails. Now, the interval between the two is the all-important thing.
What's My Line?
And a man who can make even more atrocious puns than I can. Mr. Clifton Batterman.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's My Line.
The line as a means of organizing human energy is disappearing.
Line. Well, you already have the bad news about John Daly, and I'm sure you're already missing his suave personality. Caesar, he's just as suave as you are. And his fine figure and his handsome face, but there's nothing you can do about it. You're stuck with me for 2 weeks. We've had many funny occupations, I know, on What's My Line, but we've never been able to produce an MC who could moderate a television show from an airplane. And that's where John is at the moment. He's on a round-the-world flight. As a matter of fact, just now, I think he's just about over the North Pole. Yup. Hiya, John. How am I doing? He says okay, so far. All right. As always, What's My Line will have some varied and amusing and unusual and baffling occupations to produce, to puzzle our panel with. And there'll be a mystery guest a little later in the show, and we'll meet our first contestant in just 1 minute.
Touch is integral.
Turn simple text into
All right,
images.
boys. Let's see you dance.
Brands are already doing full AI-generated photo shoots. It all happens in Discord, so you can see all of the images everyone else is making.
This gentleman has just got it up to date on tonight's incredible
And Captain Freedom has hung up his announcer's mic and come out of retirement. He's suited up and ready for the final conflict. Let's go now, live to the game zone.
If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. I do have a test today that wasn't bullshit. It's on European socialism.
I live in a perpetual disagreement with my partner.
That the technical revolution that is going on in our own world is far bigger than anything that was going on in Marx's day.
Electronic equipment which is translating us into software.
Hey!
Hold it right there. What do you mean, yes? That all you can say? Oh, anything else?
No, really, that's great. But I hope this doesn't bother anybody. What do you do with it? What's it for?
Well, you don't do anything with it, I don't think. You just think about it, contemplate it.
Do you know what you finally say? What everybody finally says? No matter what. I'm hungry. I'm hungry, Rich.
You guys hungry? I'm hungry. Let's go get something to eat.
Wallows in this multi-billion-dollar tribal communism. He says, where are the cornflakes? I've got the multi-billion-dollar check in my pocket. I've got all the experience that mankind ever had, but where are the cornflakes? Where's the hardware? So they scramble around trying to have a 19th century in Nigeria or Russia. But they've already passed into
How can they do that here? I mean, how can they do that anyway?
It's your fault.
What?
Well, okay, it's not your fault. It's physicists' fault. They made the bomb.
You can't blame littering on the bomb.
Why not? The bomb made the whole planet disposable. Littering is an expression of powerlessness. Like, hey, what difference does a little more crap make? It's all going anyway, completely, you know?
Maybe you're right. You know, I visited Hiroshima 10 years ago. I went to the museums. I saw the photographs of devastation. I went to the Peace Park, looked at all the monuments. A statue of a mother with a baby. A statue of a goddess enveloped in paper cranes. Big peace bell. And then I saw a mound, about 6 feet high, covered with grass. It wasn't decorated in any way. It wasn't a symbol of anything. No monument. It simply contained the ashes of the atomic bomb victims. The actual remains of what was left of tens, maybe hundreds and thousands of men and women and children. Incinerated because of our knowledge. Flash of light that burned them and obliterated them and totally transformed the world. And as I stood in front of that mound of ashes, I felt that I was face to face with the victims of I can't say the victims of my work as a scientist, as a physicist. I cried.
When I was little up on the 3rd floor with my brother, we'd lie in our beds watching the heat lightning flashes, and he'd say, "What's that?" And I'd say, "That's it, that's the big one, we're all gonna die."
You can't make yourself responsible for Hiroshima, Sonia, just because you do physics. You didn't invent the bomb, and even if you had, somebody else decided to use it, a politician.
In which he observes, it is obviously true that most bomber pilots are no better, no worse than other men, The majority of them, given a can of petrol and told to pour it over a child of 3 and ignite it, would probably disobey the order. Yet put a decent man in an aeroplane a few hundred feet above a village, and he will kill without compunction, drop high explosives, inflict appalling pain and injury on men, women, and children. The distance between him and the people he's bombing make them into an impersonal target, no longer human beings like himself with whom he can identify. This is characteristic situation. That bomber pilot is really very much like the person introducing any new technology, using ordinary human business resources and existing institutional means. None of these people ever consider what will be the impact or the effect of what they do when they pull that trigger. Quite apart from the use of weaponry at a distance, there is the effect of changes in man himself which result from using his own devices to create environments of service.
Coping with an electric environment of instant information.
And it was precisely at that time that Rousseau invented the theory that the environment was the creator.
That's right, and a lot of loaded rubbish it was. Absolute.
However,
which produced the present chaotic
nature
situation.
as a teaching machine is now capable of being programmed by human intention. Any new service environment such as that created by railways or motor cars or telegraph or radio deeply modify the very nature and image of the people who use them.
Oppenheimer said he felt he had blood on his hands, and he did invent it. But President Truman's answer was, who the hell does he think he is? I'm the one who ordered them to drop the damn thing. Even Oppenheimer wasn't to blame. Scientists are supposed to figure things out. It's up to the rest of us to figure out what to do about it.
I'm sorry, Sonia. I was only kidding. Maybe littering is more an expression of poor toilet training. I don't know. Maybe we could change the subject.
There's no accountability for scientists as there is for other professions. Why aren't we obliged, like medical doctors, to not use our knowledge destructively?
It's not that simple, I don't think.
Oppenheimer said he had blood on his hands. He had regrets after the fact. I have regrets because of my X-ray laser. See, I'm responsible for the consequences of my discovery. You know, we never talked about responsibility at the university, not at my time. We never discussed ethics. We were never taught value thinking.
Positive and negative, huh? You're a bit. Well, where's your program? Isn't he gonna miss you? I'm your program. Another mouth to feed.
Because what's happening to us...
Whether robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse.
is happening across all fields of labor by means of when employers make Wall Street and greed their priority and they forget about the essential contributors that make the machine run.
We have here today, we have the electronic equipment which is translating us into software instantaneously and enables us to be played back as software instantaneously. I would point out, for example, that when you're on the telephone or on the air, you do not have a physical body.
His secretary.
All you have is an abstract image. When you are not, when you do not have a physical body, as you do not on the air or on the phone, you are not the same person that you are when you have a physical body. This is a figure ground relationship which Innes never got around to studying, but it's typical of the sort of thing he loved to study. When you do not have a physical body, you do not have a private identity. And you have no relation to natural law. This just is an immediate consequence of being on the phone or on the air. When you have no relation to natural law, or that is no physical being, what happens to your identity? This is the concept that we live in a time when you do more with less. And that's what we call in Take Today.
You call it
doing more.
etherealization. He's translated it by sublimation, sublimation.
It's wrong. No, it doesn't sublimation. No.
Well, you must be difficult to translate.
It means software. Etherealization means software. And so it's one of our basic themes in Take Today.
Mm-hmm.
Doing more and more with less and less.
Yeah.
He calls it etherealization. Now, chapter hot and cool.
So we've jumped to chapter now.
I've finished that one. I'm looking now at the next one.
What do you want to see your notes on this one?
I'm looking at my notes here.
Yeah, but you've got some more here. You've got masses here.
About hot and cool, huh?
Yeah. Here.
The identity of pre-literate people is corporate, not private, and the identity of post-literate people like ourselves is moving in the same direction of corporate form. Private identity is phasing out very quickly, and corporate identity, group identity, is coming back very quickly.
Remember, guys, the internet, the web, all these pieces are connected in order to move in this digital transformation. You have Elon working on Starlinks, Neuralink, driverless cars. You have Bill Gates working on gaming, the cloud, and then sometimes he's a doctor. You have BlackRock, Vanguard to own all major assets.
You guys, we came up with this house and you guys just paint the rooms. You didn't have anything. It's like, no, you only have a business because we built the house. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, you didn't come up with the house. Mm-hmm. You didn't come up with the arrangement of rooms or anything. We came up with that. Right. You select the money and you're going to sell it. Fantastic. To recognize that kind of partnership. I mean, that word is thrown around a lot in the business, but I think it's that. I think it's this mentality by these, and I think maybe tech brought it in, that expanded it. And again, I love tech. I have a computer science degree, but yes, this thinking like, well, we came up with this thing, and you guys are just like the programming monkeys that just make it happen. Right. It's like, really? And you're all interchangeable, and they brought that kind of mentality into our business, right? Which is, it's mind-boggling.
Merry Christmas. Okay, there's 500 hours uploaded every fucking minute to YouTube. So 500 hours a minute. So already, let's divide that by 24. So 24 hours is a day. 500 divided by 24. So there's 20 days a minute. So there is then times 60. There's okay. So that's 1,250 days an hour divided by 365. So that's 3.4 fucking years an hour. Okay. So go again, so it's 3.4. Now this is in years times 24. So this is a day. That's 82 years a day. And then times that by 365. And we're back at, so that's 30,000 fucking years a year. 30,000 fucking years a year. Okay, I gotta do this again. 500 hours a minute. So if it's 500 hours a minute and we divide it by 24, we're going to be able to get the amount of days per minute uploaded to YouTube, which is fucking... wait. 500 hours. 500 divided by 24 is days. So this is days. Yes, right. So that's days per minute. 20 days per minute. So 20 times 60 equals.
Name an occupation whose members should show compassion. Yes, sir.
Physician.
El doctoro. One answer will beat it, Joe.
Attorneys.
An attorney. Not there?
Okay, I think that's still right from what I did before. 1,250 fucking days, an hour. Was that an hour? I don't even remember. No. Let's start again. That's gotta be for 1,250 days. I'm doing it again.
We have two grades.
Entertainers. The world of entertainment. Using the educational escape act.
Your money and you take shit.
They can never rebut that. There's no way of... With the audience moving more and more into the act. Modern advertising gives you the effect of almost anything without your having to bother about having a thing at all.
The real education has been going on outside the schoolroom for a long time in the electric world. The kids spend...
Tony Schwartz is in the audience tonight, bless him, and he is an expert in this very department.
10 times more time with
in terms of auditory magic,
I can only radio and TV than that.
The chances of your understanding anything going on in your own time are very small, except through the means or media provided by artists. Artists are people who enjoy living in the present.
Confusion of the extreme kind is the normal human condition in all sensory and perceptual matters.
Next is my page 19, speech 1, innumerable confusion.
I don't think you can quite get away with that phrase. Innumerable suggests numbers. Confusion is singular. I don't know. Do you like the phrase innumerable confusion? Innumerable confusion.
So this idea first started about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Again, at the King's Head. We don't hang out there that often. I was there for, I forget exactly what it was.
It's everyone's favorite quarterly time of the year, the Netflix 96-hour Chill Out Tour. Another chance for you to chill out with your favorite Netflix performers, past, present, and future. At the only multi...
somewhere to meet up with. And Richard Altman came to me and started talking to me about this concept, this concept of doing affiliate marketing using video, clickable video, interactable video. I thought it was a great idea. We chatted for about an hour, 30 minutes an hour, giving ideas. And by the end of it, I think we were, the size of our team, we were about 10 people. We were really concentrating on Shopify, so that was left it at that. I couldn't really help him. There was nothing really I can do at that point, so we kind of made our separate ways. We started talking about, what's the next big project we can sink our teeth into. So we decided to hold an internal Dragon's Den. And people can pitch their ideas. We had amazing ideas come out of that. But sure enough, Christoph, who's an employee of ours, he scheduled a pitch with a friend of his. We didn't really know who his friend was. And when they finally came and pitched the idea, lo and behold, Richard Altman showed up with Chris. So they spent the next half hour pitching interactable video. And again, it was a great idea. Finally, we had the resources and the time to actually dive into it. So, 9 months later, here we are. Obviously, they won the Dragons Den. So that's kind of how this kind of concept started. It was all with Richard and Chris. I don't know where they are. Chris is working. Okay, where's Richard? Oh, no, they're right there. There you go. Richard and Chris. Alright, so today we're happy to announce that we're going to be releasing Invid for Shopify. Being Shopify's biggest app developer and being that Shopify is the biggest e-commerce platform out there, we felt it was important to release exclusively to Shopify first. So our first release is on Shopify only, but it has all the functionality that an e-commerce store owner would need to get going with video commerce.
500 divided by 24. It's 20 days it's 20 days a minute.
Confusion.
Well, it's part of it.
It's part of what? It's part of the confusion.
Okay. You're miming.
Miming over that.
Yeah. Innumerable confusion. They ever did in school anyway. So they're getting a very high-level education without ever going to school.
Anyway, practical criticism was based on this dramatic idea of performing my father had been brought up performing.
The artist uses whatever he can have to get his hands on. Language or colors or anything.
So when he got there, he was ready. He loved it. And of course, it worked wonderfully.
Because there's an enormous amount of confusion and stupidity and ignorance about this matter, he has a company. He has a company.
On the web, there was information. And that was what the value was. And it followed that the leverage accrued to the service that could manage and finagle and not just get swamped by information, but actually thrive on information. And that was Google. The fundamental nature of Google was completely different than the browser. And Microsoft understood the threat of value shifting, but their mistake was approaching that threat with a Windows-based mindset when actually the threat was Google all along.
Yeah, I mean, like that's the challenge for these companies that have been successful. Like, it's impossible for them to view things from a perspective different from where they've been.
This very department.
If anybody has the
in terms of auditory magic.
basically saying to corporations that want to advertise, we will camouflage your ads to make them look like news stories. That's essentially it.
Oh my god, Blair crashed Jenny's party. You look... I know. Jenny's gonna freak. Watch and learn, ladies. The most important parties to attend are the ones you're not invited to. Where's the host? I have something for him.
They're hunters. The women have been completely deserted. Now, so the automatic thing for women who've been deserted with men who are absent is to take over power. We are moving into a world where women will be the only power. The power of giving effect without thinking. Our job was to is entirely within his domain. Save this public from its triviality. You see, the advertisers have been puzzled for a long time. In their surveys to discover that people don't really read ads until they own the thing. And
You are endlessly engaged in a do-it-yourself activity and looking at TV at all.
That's the Gutenberg idea. The understanding idea. Pas les messages the mediums.
That's not a book. That's a pamphlet.
That's a collage.
With a few little quotes, that's all.
What we need is a pill that makes a woman disappear the minute after.
If we try and connect with you, I'd buy that pill.
I was just waiting for practice.
The guy over the second tier is Zombie, the guy from MTV.
I'd say what my father said to me when I asked him the same question. He said, "No, son, no, there isn't. All those things your mother has told you over the years are lies. There's no Santa Claus, there's no Easter Bunny, there's no Jesus. And I never used your college money to buy a Corvette for a Puerto Rican whore." As we say.
Yeah, books are horrible. It didn't work. You don't get
I didn't make that book. Jerry Hagel put it together.
You just provided the written text.
No, I didn't. He gathered those quotes from my stuff.
Out of just that one discovery came the book Mechanical Bride. This is practical criticism applied to the advertisements of the 1940s.
Right.
30s and 40s. And the book that we wrote later, called Culture's Our Business in the 60s, was a study of advertising, the only other study of advertising. Mechanical Bride was ads before TV, Culture's Our Business is ads after TV. If you own that icebox or that car, then you notice the ads very much, because this is how you get your satisfaction. Down and get the good bread. This kind of this is
If anybody has
the ad world then becomes an enormous area of information service, part of the service industries, enabling you to substitute the effect. Interresonance and much touch, and that is another feature about the electric. For the thing, just like Picasso. The artists have been, usually go through these maneuvers 50 or more years before the engineers get around to them.
I will, someday. Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, Winnipeg. Sure, New York.
Ethical to inquire about a fellow patient, but how is his lordship?
His lordship?
But I have never found a single one among them that said anything about my favorite place.
So they ended up some shitty fucking outpost in Winnipeg.
They wanted to be a lot of things before cops.
The astronaut. Yeah, I mean, that whole international fucking jewel thief, that whole bunch of shit, inventor.
Bond villain.
Rogue.
It wasn't until a little later that I really began to write. A point came when I suddenly began to feel that science fiction was very important. I had...
Which books gave you this particular
Van Vought's World of Null.
Johnny Cage's remark, remember?
Where people live and face each day at their own pace.
The Bishop of Winnipeg.
Oh, you know the bishop.
My aunt's first cousin. I heard you were treating him.
you know, they almost pulled the trigger on the swap for this the centipede cabinet, but the shipping from Winnipeg was ridiculous.
You're behaving just like I did.
I had never any problem about knowing who I was.
And at the time, there still hadn't been any acknowledgement of Marshall except for the University of Manitoba room in UMSU called Marshall McLuhan Hall, completely oblivious to the irony of that. Parenthetically, his mother's maiden name is Hall. There you go. And yes, most people know him from Annie Hall, which was also a relative on Elsie's side. Or it wasn't. But it's not exactly implausible if it was. I'm not going to check.
Last Tuesday night in Winnipeg?
Yes. Shortly after that, played...
As you mentioned, they talk about comedy. Bob Newhart mentioned that he had never played a club before. After recording a successful comedy record, he was a little nervous. First two gigs, one in America, one in...
Called the Tidelands in Houston, Texas.
One in Canada, specifically Ontario. Went terrible.
I can't believe that.
Bob Newhart, though. The Canadians didn't go with it. They were very polite. They were very nice. But they didn't look up, you know?
Casually.
They just were like... no, he's still talking, I think. So that almost drove me back to accounting. But then I played Winnipeg, Rancho Don Carlos.
I know it very well.
Your hometown?
My hometown.
That went well, so then I said, okay, well, maybe I'll stay in this business.
A little bit longer.
I'll talk about the general strikes in Seattle and Winnipeg.
This is great. Thank you.
One final question. Where might you find yourself on a Winnipeg night like tonight?
Oh, the Huntsman is good.
The Huntsman.
Down here, the financial district. A concierge is the Winnipeg equivalent of a geisha. This is a woman who has been trained in the fine art of fanciness and pleasure. And when you meet one, it is intoxicating.
You do not any longer bring a top physicist in or a top engineer in to tackle a particular problem in mechanics. You bring in people from biology and psychology. You bring them in from all over the management and you say, now here's the problem. You tackle it as a team. You're just closed off now. They work on it without any of the specialist knowledge. The specialist simply says, look, I've been up against that problem before. It's insoluble. The team doesn't know enough to know. They're not specialists enough to know.
You will not bring the specialist whose specialty the problem is.
That is right. You keep him out.
You keep him out. If it is a problem in physics, you keep out the physicist.
That is correct.
Marshall,
this is called operations research. There are books on it.
You do not bring in the specialist.
No, you keep him out deliberately. You bring in people of other competences.
Now, how do you reach him? Well, what you do is to put on the air not the knowledge, but the ignorance. That is, you explain
your problem.
The problem is this, and what we have done is this. We have done these things to solve this problem. And somebody out there will say, but you are doing all the wrong things. You would do it this way.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I call organized ignorance.
Now, this idea of organizing ignorance rather than directing from viewpoint knowledge, but organizing field of knowledge from multiple points of view.
Organizing amateurs.
Amateur field versus the specialist viewpoint on problem.
Has Drucker written about this?
He takes his geological data and he publishes it on the web and holds a contest called the Gold Corp Challenge. $500,000 in prize money to the top 3 submissions on is there gold on this property and if so where. He gets 77 submissions. They come from around the world. They use techniques he's never heard of, not just geologists, mathematicians, computer scientists. He's got chemists giving organic solutions to inorganic problems. He gives out the $500,000 in prize money, and for that investment finds $3.4 billion worth of gold. His market value goes from $90 million to $10 billion, and I can tell you, because he's my neighbor, he's a happy camper.
Use the mass audience and give them the problem and not the answers.
Then that is definitely a positive point in favor of the mass media.
Well, again, you're making a value judgment. I'm not making any judgments about the mass media. I say, if you want to solve these problems, give them to the ignorant. Don't give them to the learned.
But you do want to solve them, don't you?
Of course.
Well, that's a value judgment then.
No. It's a practical need.
You know, the best people to work on this or that problem don't necessarily work for you. And I'll add, and they probably never will.
Linus is law as described by Raymond as a claim of software development, named in honor of Linus Torvald, given a large enough beta tester and co-developer base. Almost every problem will be characterized quickly and the fix will be obvious to someone.
Depending on how much the individual is involved, they're actually also given pieces of the revenue.
Why didn't one of you think of this idea? It's the greatest goodwill policy I ever heard of.
Major changes that's come into the world with the electronic environment is that the audience becomes workforce.
Every shop shopper in New York City suddenly thinks of Macy as
and he gets a cut of every royalty that's sold, and this is now a quirky product that's sold at Home Depot. So that's a great example of co-innovation where crowds and companies are working together. Employees and customers start to look the same.
benevolent soul, thinking only of the welfare of the public. And what does that make Gimbal? Nothing but a profiteering money grubber. Well, two can play at this game. From now on, if we haven't got what the customer wants, send him back to Macy's. And what's more, we'll do the same thing in our stores in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, and Pittsburgh. Now get to work on it right away. Imagine anything like that.
Now we'll take some at my store.
Just a minute. I have something I'd like to give our friend here. This is just a little something to show my appreciation for all you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Macy. Ooh, that's very kind of you. I didn't think you were that generous. That's a bit of money. What are you going to do with it? Well, I have a friend, a doctor. He's been very kind to me. He needs an X-ray machine.
Oh, I don't think that's going to be enough. I'd better give you some...
I'll make up the difference.
Buy it through the store and get 10% discount.
I can get it for cost.
So this is surprising, but U-Haul launched their own crowdfunding platform on their .com. And it's called U-Haul Investors Club. And Mitch, you can actually invest in a U-Haul truck or a steering wheel or a tire perhaps on that truck. And every quarter you get a dividend for the performance of that vehicle. You're sharing the revenues. Now, there's a couple of reasons why U-Haul would do this. The first is they can get better rates from the crowd rather than getting it from a bank. And the second reason is this, and this is the far more important one, and you talked about the built-in advocacy, but crowdfunding, if corporations do it, is actually the highest form of loyalty.
Get those fire engines at Schoenfeld's on Lexington Avenue. Only $8.50, a wonderful bargain.
Schoenfeld's? I don't get it.
Oh, I keep track of the toy market pretty closely. Does that surprise you, sir?
Surprise me. Macy sending people to the store. You kidding me?
Well, the only important thing is to make the children happy.
You feel that way.
And the second reason is this, and this is the far more important one, and you talked about the built-in advocacy, but crowdfunding, if corporations do it, is actually the highest form of loyalty.
Whatever. Defense rests. Everybody can fuck off. Except you. I didn't mean you, but those
Thank you,
two guys
Richard.
and him.
You may be
Can
seated.
you guys get the fuck out of the way, please?
This is
When we're looking at programmatic overall advertising, this might not just be only Google's problem to invest to ensure that the right adverts are in the right place at the right time, but could this actually spread? Could people turn their attention away from this juggernaut onto other video providers?
idea that perception is something they do all the time. They have immense shortcomings.
When you make a sandwich at home, do you reach down past the first 3 or 4 pieces of bread to go down and get the good bread?
And then start looking at the facts. No perception in the sense of actual reading.
I really wouldn't know about that. I don't watch much TV. I like to read. What do you do, a lot of that? Did you ever notice kind of stuff? You know, it strikes me a lot of guys are doing that kind of thing. Well, you really look bald there, didn't you?
They never can look straight out at the environment. Only artists and antisocial children and such people dare look at the environment. The emperor's new clothes are perfectly visible to them, but to well-adjusted, respectable people, the old clothes are what is seen. Of the language of one's, and the modes of one's environment, very rare. Only artists are trained in this skill. They develop this skill out of intense fascination with the problem, but they tend to specialize in one or another of the medium.
Lo and behold, Richard Altman shows up with Chris.
As of this edit, in between moments, waiting for rendering. 20 days a minute times 60. Okay, well that's a fucking hour, so that's 1,250 days an hour. 1,250 days an hour divided by 365 now turns it into years, so that's 3.42 years an hour of video. At 500 hours a minute. So 3.42 years an hour times 24 gives us for a day. So that's 82 years a day of video uploaded. And if that's for 24 hours, if that's a day, then if we multiply this by 365, we'll get the amount of fucking years a year. So there's 30,000 fucking years of video uploaded to YouTube a year. And in a decade, that's 300,000 years a decade. And it's 3 million years a century.